as a kid, you're gonna know what sex is. You're gonna know what te quito el pantalón means.
Yeah.
You're gonna know what te voy a jalar por el pelo means.
Yeah.
You know, basically, you know, you just grow up real fast. You know, my mind was kind of innocent though, from the aspect that I didn't really know I didn't have a dad.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't until like people were bringing it up, and then it was.
What did you think before it got brought up?
I thought my grandpa was my dad in the aspect of he's there, he's taking care of me. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't think of
Something was
where's
missing.
my dad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't think of. I was a kid. I'm just having fun, enjoying life.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to This Is Real with yours truly, Pastor Juan Martinez, aka Dr. Love.
And I'm Stephanie Martinez-Ray. Welcome back, everyone.
This show, this one right here, the one we've all been waiting for.
Oh, wow.
Now listen. No, it's just exciting.
Yeah.
You know, we got to interview my daughter Nina, and that was like a really good show.
Fire.
Some tears, some
Yes.
laughter, all of that stuff. And I really believe that there's a lot of freedom from people even hearing those kind of
Yeah.
stories. And then we back it up with this one. You know, that's exciting to me. Where
Yeah.
again, another, you know, because.
But this is real, right? So
This
that's
is
what
real.
it's about.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
about being authentic. It's about sharing true stories, so that people can be free. That's
Totally.
the main goal.
Totally, real people, real problems,
With real solutions.
real solutions. And so
Today's guest.
hey, why don't you introduce, because this is special for you too. Hold on a second. You know, I'm like, oh, it's special for me, but is it special for you?
Well, our guest today is my favorite person.
Okay.
Yeah. So for those who thought that the Martinez came from birth, or they thought I was married to Pastor Juan, no.
Yeah.
My name change came from today's guest, who is Pastor Juan's son, aka my husband, Jonathan Martinez. Welcome to the show.
Hey.
Man, they finally see the man behind the woman. Is that
Hello,
what, you know
everyone.
what I'm saying? You're like, hey, here's the wave.
I'm the one.
That's
Okay,
funny.
so what's
Welcome.
going
How
on,
you
man?
doing?
How's your life?
Oh man, it's wonderful. Loving life right now.
Okay.
Man, there's nothing better than being able to live a life surrendered to Jesus.
Yeah.
Keeping him Lord, walking in integrity. There's just nothing better than that. You know.
So what's that look like? Because you're like also newlywed,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you just got married.
Uh-huh.
How long you been married now?
6 months. About 5-6 months.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, nice. As long as you remember the date.
Yeah.
You're gonna be fine.
4-1, baby. 4-1. I'm good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. Obviously, it always takes work to where people get to work on their preferences.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Jesus is Lord, no matter what.
Yeah.
So that's the beautiful
So it keeps
part.
y'all together.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Totally.
You know?
Different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you go from this single man, to now
Oh, no,
married
yeah,
man,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Everything, or you're still transitioning in all your thinking. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, it's almost like La La Land a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. To me, it's just beautiful.
Okay. So obviously, I want to go back to like how it all started for you, right? Because I love when people always see, like, it's kind of the movies, right? Like you see the end of the movie, and then you're like, wow, or whatever, and then all of a sudden, I love
Yeah.
movies when they go back, and then
Yeah.
you see like, whoa. Because the beauty in that is that you're like, this is exciting, and somebody might be having a life that maybe they're like, man, I don't know what he's so excited about. But your life wasn't always like this,
Yeah.
where you feel like La La Land. It probably felt different, like a different kind of land.
Absolutely.
Okay, so tell us about your childhood and what that looked like.
Absolutely. So growing up, I grew up in Puerto Rico. Till I was like maybe 12 years old. I obviously grew up without my father.
Okay.
So it was just me, my brother Jay. I had 2 other siblings, Michi and Louie.
Yeah.
And then we had my mom,
Yep.
a few stepdads throughout the
Yeah,
story.
totally.
But really it was our grandparents that took care of us,
Okay.
So growing up in Puerto Rico, I don't know if anybody really knows about the culture there, but you
Yeah.
learn everything real fast.
Wow.
You
Yeah.
know, as a kid, you're going to know what sex is. You're going to know what te quito el pantalón means.
Yeah.
You're going to know what te voy a jalar por el pelo means.
Yeah.
You know, basically, you just grow up real fast. And
Yeah.
so I was maybe around 10 years old, the first time I ever really saw like sex or,
Yeah.
booty shaking and all kinds of stuff. So I was all very, very what is it called?
Exposed.
Exposed
To that type of lifestyle, you know,
Yeah.
very lustful and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't, you know, my mind was kind of innocent though, from the aspect that I didn't really know I didn't have a dad.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't until like people were bringing it up, and then it was.
What did you think before it got brought up?
I mean, I thought my grandpa was my dad in the aspect of he's there, he's taking care of me. Like
Yeah.
I didn't think of
Something was
where's
missing.
my dad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't think of. I was a kid. I'm just having
Yeah.
fun, enjoying life. You know.
You're like, Dad. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think I heard my aunt one day say that. You know, oh well, you know, Mayra needs the most help because she's the one with the kids, and the kids don't have a dad. And like I heard it,
Wow.
but I didn't like understand it. You
Yeah.
know, it never
Yeah.
like computed, and so I just kept living life. I think when I was about 11, I was turning 11. We moved to Florida, the United States.
Yep. Did you talk like this? Little accent?
Oh, I didn't even have an accent.
Okay.
I didn't understand English. I didn't even speak English. There was no way.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. No English.
No English at all. You know.
You're doing pretty good, but go ahead.
You know, I've been blessed. I've been
Yeah,
blessed. You know,
yeah.
little nugget out there. You know, if
Yeah.
you don't speak English, if you just make it sound like, because it's just a sound. All you have to do is make it sound like what other people sound like.
Yeah.
You know, and it worked for me. So I didn't know what I was saying. I just made it sound like.
Yeah, they
you
said
know,
something, you
oh
said
yeah,
it.
if I
Stop.
said, yeah.
Phonetically.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, nice.
And so
Y'all moved
we
to
moved to Florida. My mom is working all the time. Jay started high school. I was in middle school. Grandparents are just at home. And so at this time, I was always the weird kid that was kind of by himself and playing by himself, like with imaginary friends and stuff like that. But at that moment, when I started going to middle school, I started hanging out with anybody who accepted me because I didn't really speak English. So anybody and everybody was my friend as long as, we spoke.
Wow. The whole
You know?
acceptance thing.
Acceptance.
Yeah. So that's your void.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
So-
One of them.
One of them. No,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
There
it's-
was obviously, I didn't really know kind of like what we were talking about, the subconscious. There was a lot of stuff in the subconscious going on that I guess I just made believe that everything was fine, even though it wasn't fine.
Yeah.
It's around that age that I also stopped going to church. I saw my brother being able to say, nah, I don't want to go to church no more. So then I stopped going to church.
Yeah.
But growing up, that's all we did. Seventh-day Adventist, grandparents always like every Saturday, from Friday, Saturday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Now I started just hanging out with anybody. People started smoking, people started doing stuff. I yet wasn't smoking. I was still kind of like, the innocent part of me. But as I started getting older, I started in church. I met this girl. She was around.
How old are you then?
I was like 11
Okay.
turning 12. I met this girl, and this is when I first had sex. She was 21 years old. I was 12. And because I already knew what all that type of stuff, because that's how you grow up in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So it was like just seeds that were being deposited, and then eventually it flowered. And then when it did, I finally had my first taste of what that felt
Forbidden
like.
fruit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man. And so for a kid that's 12,
21-year-old.
Oh
Yeah.
Oh, you're the man.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's not wrong.
Yeah.
That's not wrong. To
Now
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
proud because it's an accomplishment.
Unless you know Jesus,
Yeah.
that is like a win.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's really messing
I'm
you
gonna
up.
put it to you like
Super
this.
jacked up.
Unless
it
you
is super jacked
switch the roles, it's not jacked up.
Oh yeah, in society, yes,
Right?
yes.
Until I got
But
older.
to Jesus,
oh yeah,
that's
oh
messed
yeah,
up.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so that was something that I saw. That I was like, man, keep doing that, because it made me feel good. Like I
Yeah.
was
And
empowered.
wanted.
Oh yeah,
You felt wanted,
oh, yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. I got older, kept having sex. Eventually started smoking. I was 12 by then.
Yeah.
Was hanging out with everybody that was bad. I mean, like if they were bad, I was there.
Yeah.
Like that was the kind of character I wanted to be known as.
Yeah.
Ever since I saw Scarface as a kid, like that was my role model. Like,
Yeah.
hey man, if you come from an island, right? I feel like that was my life. Came from the island. Now I gotta make a name for myself, and now I gotta,
Yeah,
money,
totally.
the power, the women.
Yeah.
And so I started smoking, started doing bad stuff, whatever. I didn't really care about listening to anybody, authority, none of that stuff. You know, it was my grandparents, my brother, and my mom. And my
Yeah.
mom. Yeah. So as I get older, I just keep that same image. I wanted to stay in that image of being a bad guy, being the bad kid.
But I know you told me something one time that I thought was kind of interesting. Because when was it that you finally like, I don't have a dad? Like, because I think there was a time you told me that you were really doing a lot of things. Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah.
You were like, I was doing a lot of things because I was trying to really figure out who you were.
Yeah. So it was probably around that same
Hearing
age.
different things of like who your dad.
So it was around the same age. It was around the same age that I started getting into that kind of mindset of like, I'm a bad kid.
Yeah.
Because around that same age is when, you know, I would hear somehow my mom would say, oh, your dad was a drug dealer,
Yeah.
and he was this and he was that. So I would have like imagine my dad as being like this drug lord,
Yeah.
from
You're
the
like-
Latin Kings,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know. And so
Yeah.
I remember I would talk to my friends sometimes. We'd be out there and be like, "Yeah, you know, my dad from the Latin Kings. He one of them, you know,
Yeah.
blah, and come up
Yeah,
with stories
totally.
and stuff." or
You're
whatever.
bragging on your dad.
Yeah.
To
Hey,
really
yeah.
what you want to be,
Yeah.
which
you
is
know?
crazy.
Yeah, you know, almost like, hey, I'm heading in that direction.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He's going to know me.
you
Maybe.
know?
I don't know.
I don't know. I was just
Totally.
talking, yeah, you know, when you're out there, you just talk smack and whatever. And but really, it's coming from somewhere. And so I didn't yet know what was going on. You know, I was just trying to be out there and put the rep. You know,
Yeah.
whatever. So as I got older, and I just kept going in that direction. I started then probably 16, 17. That's when I really started, trying to sell weed. And I mean, when I decided to do this, I was like, I want to like take, like, I want
Yeah,
to do
you
it.
want- you
Like,
wanna
I
do
want
it.
to, yeah. So my
Totally.
homeboys were like, man, you tripping, blah, blah, blah. But I just always, in my life, happened to meet the right people at the right times. I always had the right words to say. Somehow, I don't know. You know, I was blessed, you know?
Yes.
But I was always using my blessing to get into the wrong things. And so, I started selling weed. I had never failed a grade in my life until 12th grade. And so
Wow.
that's when I really stopped caring about school. The only thing I ever really wanted was my diploma. That was like my only goal in life. I was like, hey, let me just get my diploma. And I know I stopped going to school my 12th grade year. That's when it really took off. I was making like, to me, that was a lot
Yeah.
of money. I came from nothing. So for me, $500 a day, it was like,
A lot of money.
man,
Yeah.
I was
Totally.
banking. And so as I get older, or I was probably like maybe 18 now. I had failed my first year. Then I went back to school while I was still selling. I went to like one of them side schools.
Like getting GEDs
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And so then I went to school there for like one day out of the week. Somehow I still got my diploma.
Yeah.
I was still doing my thing. Next thing you know, I remember the day that I went to jail, you know. I remember I was about to leave the house. I told my grandpa, hey, man, I'm about to leave. I'm going to pick up Johnny, my homeboy, you know. And I had already sold everything. So all I had was like maybe 3 or 4 bands on me. So I was like ready to go grab the next day. I was going to get a pound or whatever.
Yeah. But what happens?
My grandpa was like, okay, don't take too long. I was like, I'll be right back.
You get arrested.
Man, I come home back with Johnny. We get arrested, blah, blah, we're in jail. You know, I remember they were like manufactory, delivery, all kinds of stuff. I didn't have nothing on me, just money. But they put his stuff with my stuff, and then they were like, oh, these dudes are like trying to do something. And so I know that God has always been watching over me. So I get in there, and so I'm nervous. It's my first time in jail. I'm super nervous. The craziest part is everybody that I knew
Was in jail.
was in there. It was in the pod. It was like a pod of everybody that I knew.
Yeah.
You know, along the way, you know, because I just knew
The
people.
lifestyle,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was kind of crazy because the fear was gone, but there was still the fear of, well, you could be facing 3 to 5, 6 to 10, you know. And so then, man, I remember one day getting on my knees. I knew this much about the Lord. If you just, if
pray.
you repent, you know, if you repent, man, God, if you are real, Lord, please, if you are real, I will go to church every day. I remember this. I will go to church every day.
That's manipulation.
I will
That
go
is
to church.
manipulation, not
Listen,
repentance.
I will go with my grandparents. I will do whatever, you know?
Yeah.
I will do whatever.
Yeah.
Lord, whatever.
Yeah.
And
You were manipulative then.
well, at that point, at that moment,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like the most sincere prayer I could say.
Yeah. But you went.
Oh man, if I was looking at for
It's manipulative if you say something and don't change. Like what you've done now is repentance.
Yes.
Just to get that clear, because everybody's done the bad night. Lord, if you go back to it,
right.
You know what I mean?
Well, my intentions were good.
Yeah, your execution sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like what you said earlier. When you get out and you surround yourself with the same people.
Yeah, totally.
Those people are not going to be like, oh, yeah, let's go find Jesus.
Totally.
That's what I kept doing. I just kept going right back. So anyways, he did end up, they dropped the charges. I got out on probation. I remember that was like the first time I actually spoke to my dad over the phone as a grown man. And it was because I was facing time. My brother Jay was like, hey, why don't you give a call dad? And I was like, what?
What did you know of your dad since then? So when Jay says call your dad, and you had this image before of like, oh, my dad's like a drug lord, and all this different stuff. So, but then he's telling you to call him. So now, do you know who he is or what he's doing or what?
No.
What is that
so
like?
The only thing I ever heard about my dad, I'm trying to tell you. So look, like that was, I guess, facts. He was a chef somewhere. It's the only thing I heard. He's a chef somewhere. It's the only thing I heard. Before that, I think I met him one time. I was around 5 years old, and I'll always tell him this stuff. It's the only time I ever remember him. And we went to a Chinese restaurant. It was me, him, and Jay in New Jersey or somewhere up there. We sat there, we ate. He tried to teach me how to eat with chopsticks. Some girl walked up. She was trying to get something. And so Pops walks outside with her. Next thing you know, we're leaving. You know what I'm saying? That's
about right.
And that was, gave us $5 each.
Yep.
I remember that.
Get ice cream.
Get ice cream.
Go get ice cream.
Yeah, and that was it.
Then I took off.
Yeah, that was it. I never seen him again. Never heard from him again. Unlike Nina and Jay, they always had like little bits and pieces where
the beginning years.
Yeah. That was the first time and the last time. And then the next time was like, hey, I'm locked
in
up.
Jail.
I'm locked up. And so I only called him because Jay told me to. If Jay, like, that would have never been a thought that came from me. He was like, hey, let me call my dad. I would have never known.
Yeah. And by this time, I'm saved. So on the flip side of that, his grandparents are talking to me.
Yeah.
Because they're like, yo.
Yeah,
like,
obviously. Otherwise, they're not going to tell you to call your dad.
Yeah, they're talking to me because they're like, look, we've done
like
the best that we could.
So they're a little bit more aware of where he's at.
Yeah. You need to, it's time, basically it's time for you to step up as a dad.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. On the flip side of that coin, I'm kind of excited that I get to see my son. Mm-hmm. But upset that, because that he's in jail.
Yeah. So what's that phone conversation like? What happens
I
there?
was like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? I'm
locked up.
I'm right here. And he gave me his address to write him a letter. And then he also told me, whatever you do, don't take the first bid.
Don't take the first. Yeah.
Hey, I didn't understand what he was saying at that moment. So I've been like, I didn't go to court yet.
Yeah.
And so, man, they gave me the first bid. This is how you know I have bitterness in my heart because I took it.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to a word. Yeah.
What did his dad know? 23 years locked up. His dad won't know nothing about it.
Yeah. And so, man, I took it. I got out. And, ever since then, though, I'll tell you, something was different. Something was different because I remember I went back to the Plug's house. We're chilling there. And he was like, hey, bro, I got this for you. I'm just like, nah, I'm good. Like, I'm good right now. I'm good. Like, and I remember Johnny, my homeboy, would be like, hey, bro, what's up? Like, you ain't trying to? Like, nah, bro, not right now. The only thing I was still into was, like, smashing everything. I was just a lustful, and, like, too lustful.
Yeah, I think, also the side that, because obviously internally there's probably this, because I remember having the conversation of like possibly like which we did picking you up and stuff. So I think like maybe a little bit of like, because I know I had that and my dad let me down. In a sense. So the little bit of like, maybe I get to go with my dad. I can't get in trouble again. Like, maybe.
So I remember, that was actually kind of funny. I remember my dad would try to send me, like, after I got out, he would try to send me, like, videos of, like, rap music that was Christian. And, I'd be like, oh yeah, it was good, but I never really listened to it. Like I ain't trying to know, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm still listening to Wayne and Drake, and it's like, but I remember after I got saved, I actually listened to that stuff, and it's like fire.
Some whole like game changer.
Oh yeah,
you're like I should have listened to this before.
Yeah, I should have.
And so I want to ask you. So obviously, we love the fact the pieces of your story, all these pieces of your story. At what moment do you get like? At what moment do you get like saved, or at what moment do you? How do you even wind up in Texas?
Okay,
hold on.
Really quick.
We're gonna go to a break.
You gotta tell us after we come back from this break. You guys stick around. Stay tuned.
Okay, we're back. Hey, all right, Stephanie. Where we at?
I don't know, because he just gave me some eyes and I got distracted.
Oh, wow. He gave you the...
No, okay, so your question was, when did you accept Jesus? Like, when did that...
how did you even wind up in Texas?
Yeah.
Like, how do you get here? How does that...
So, right after I got out of jail, I started having more of a conversations with my dad. And at some point, he was like, hey, why don't you come out here and move with me? And my first thought was like, heck no, you tripping. Like, I don't know, I had, what are you really going to imagine when someone tells you that, right?
Yeah.
And like, I haven't seen you all my life. And so,
totally. That is kind of trippy.
Right?
Yeah.
My aunt, Titi Sonia, was like, I think you should. And I was like, what the heck? And then I'm smoking a blunt with my homeboy. This was the weirdest part out of all of them.
Yeah.
I'm smoking a blunt with my homeboy. We're chilling, just having a conversation. Then I told him, hey, bro, my dad just called me. He was like, come live with me, move to Texas. And then he goes, if my dad called me and told me to come live with him, I probably would go, bro. And weed is cheaper in Texas. And I was like, no way,
Wow.
Well,
Yeah, no.
But it spoke to me because he was like, yeah, man, I would definitely go to meet my dad, at least to meet him. Like, I want to know what happened. I want to know, like, what happened.
Yeah, there's still some
Why?
I'm
questions
here.
that need
Yeah,
answering.
And so it kind of spoke to me, Obviously, God knows how He ordains everything, because I could have went to a different friend, I could have been somewhere else,
totally.
And so next thing you know, I was just like, yeah, I guess I'll move, And so next thing you know, I'm in Texas, or actually we met in Florida. I think we met for Nina's graduation.
I picked you up. Graduation.
Yep.
It's kind of wild.
It was wild, and it was wild, and because I remember I was still smoking at that time. I remember when we met, I was still smoking.
Yeah.
And I remember you told me, it was like, hey man, like it's cool, like I don't care, you do your thing, but I just can't hang around with you that much because that's the kind of stuff that like I used to be into, and I'm not gonna fall. So like if I gotta like, hey son, see you, hey, whatever, And so I remember that same weekend, the moment you told me that, I threw the cigarettes away.
Yeah, I remember that. That was
stopped
cool.
smoking, because I guess there was that in my subconscious, and in my heart there was still like the dad part, and so I remember just asking you what happened, I remember you sharing with me what happened.
Yeah.
And so this is the cool part to me, is because I was living that kind of lifestyle, I understood that, man, if I would have had a kid, bro, money comes first. This lifestyle comes first. I come first. Like, there's no way to really put yourself in and I remember my homeboys had kids, and they would be out there with me. So it was almost like, man, we did the same thing to Lil Jaden.
Yeah.
It was wrong for me to be like, how could you, if I probably would have done the same thing, or I was condoning the same behavior from my friends with their kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
And so I just wanted to know what happened. Obviously there was still bitterness and all that kind of stuff.
Been through a lot of healing. Yeah, you've been through a lot of. It was interesting. Go ahead. I thought it was really interesting that you play a big part in the other ones coming. Because I remember Jay kind of wanting to like, man, stop lying to them, and you're like, no, for real, I'm really like this now. I got a job, and he's like, Jay's like, this isn't real.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, no, look, this is real, and them actually trusting because you're like, I'm here. It's really not that bad, guys. You almost played a very vital point in them trusting.
Well, and so for Jay seen me like he saw me. Like I used to show him the money, the weed, the stuff.
At the worst.
And so like,
he's seen you.
He's seen me at the worst.
Yeah.
You know, and so then when he sees me, washing dishes and like being there on time and like being having like a conscious conversation with people, it was just different. You know, he was like, "What the and I remember he told me this. He's like, "If that's what happened to Jonathan." Then shoot, I'm gonna grow. I'm gonna grow from personally.
Totally.
And so then they moved. They moved after that. And so I mean,
what were you gonna ask? Because were you gonna ask a question?
Yes. Remember what it was?
Remember. So you're here. You're saved.
Well, because you get here, and what happens when you get here? You know, that was kind of my question of like. Because there's obviously some transformation. So what made you get to the place of like now you're washing dishes and all that kind of stuff?
This could be actually a double interview because you fell off.
Oh no!
Because you started hanging around. Yeah. He started doing the same thing again, and then even then, I mean, this is a whole nother show. But in that fall, he meets you, and then years later, y'all would get married. So this we're talking about a completely different thing. But we're gonna keep
I mean, like, what got you when you first got here to be able to testify to your siblings, like, hey, look, I'm changed. Like, when did you make that decision? Because your friend says, hey, weed's cheaper, blah, blah, blah. But then you come here, and what's that actual experience like? Because you did make some changes. You attended Bible school, all of that. What did that look like?
Right. So I didn't know this then, but I know this now. And so if I've reflected in my life, I noticed that I was a product of my environment. A lot of my environment made me. So I wasn't smoking weed and having sex in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
But I did when I started hanging around with other people in Florida. Now, when I came to Houston, my environment was clean, I was good.
Yeah.
So there's no way for me to think of other things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Heaven invaded your hell, in a sense.
Absolutely. Well, I moved into heaven, and there was no way hell can come inside of me. You know what I'm saying?
Heaven was waiting for you.
Yeah, little did I know.
Yeah.
And so it helped me. Obviously, having my dad help me.
Yeah.
But it was only my dad because there was heaven inside.
Because you always say, I met both fathers.
Yeah, I met both fathers at the same time. You know, it was through you. I rekindled my relationship with God. And then when I started stepping out of that heaven, thinking that I was looking for something else, right?
Yeah.
It's when stuff started kind of like, roller coaster. You start thinking, it's going up slow, and next thing you know, you're like going down real fast, and you're wondering really why the heck. It was around that same time I met Stephanie, way back when, and she was also a different person.
Yeah.
But
they say what God has for you. I mean, the proof's at the table.
Yeah. Yeah. And so. And actually when we met, I used to tell her, I was like, man, there's just certain things I can't do because I will flip out, I'm telling
She's like,
you.
no, it's not really a problem here.
Those things don't.
And then you're like,
those things didn't make sense to me because I, when I was in the world, I could function, quote unquote, normally, right? I still, if I party till 6 a.m., I'd still be at church the next day or I'd still be at work at 8 o'clock.
You
so
woke up the vampire.
Oh, yeah.
vampire.
Extreme that that other people's reality that wasn't a reality for me, so it was foreign to me where I'm like, what do you mean you can't have a beer? Like, that's stupid,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You understand now, don't you? You're like, yes, totally.
So, I live a life right now that is very disciplined in that aspect.
Boundaries.
Yeah. I there's just certain things I won't, and I just, when I met Stephanie and she was a different person. Then when I went through my roller coaster ride, went through a man's home, did all this stuff, but my standards yet were not like high at all. Like I still didn't understand any of that stuff. But when I met Stephanie again, from the aspect of like getting to know each other again, her standards were at a different level. So I remember meeting her and getting so frustrated at her standards.
Wow.
So frustrated. I would get so upset at her standards. And, it wasn't later on until I realized that it was those standards that, like, I didn't comprehend at that moment because I never saw value in myself, I was good for everybody. I was good for anything. And it was so good because now that discipline comes from those standards.
Yeah.
And so my standards actually pretty high from the aspect of, God is my standard. Like, it was Jesus Christ on the cross. That is my standard, and there's no higher value.
Yeah.
There's no higher, like, there's
really
no way to
good.
trade that in,
Yeah.
And so I tell her all the time, I was like, it's like God over you right now and forever, because I can never, like, that's what changed me,
Yeah, totally,
That's
I
what
get
changed
it.
me. It's like,
That's what's actually going to
realizing-
help you love her.
Yeah,
If we
yeah,
really wanna get
absolutely,
technical.
absolutely. The more, it's crazy. The more I love God, is the more I'm able to think of my family, which I never thought about family. It's just
Yeah.
never really
Well,
been.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you don't even like.
Yeah.
Okay, finally a picture.
Yeah, and so.
Stephanie, why are you crying over there? Because you know him both, like his story, right?
Yeah, obviously. But hearing him say that, I mean, I have to think of myself, because we worked really hard, for me to have those standards.
Yeah.
So to hear someone who knew me at a time where my standards were really low, and then to share like what you're saying.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Even though you took that. Hey yo, is super excited about this moment right here. He's like, yes, no. I get what he's saying in the standpoint, because he's like, well, you picked me.
I don't mean like he was,
but in a sense,
both
yeah,
of like what you shared, both of our mindsets was
his life. Then
Yeah.
you were picking at a
Yeah.
lower, because if you like smoking,
But,
okay, no problem.
not
so you're still
necessarily
picking.
in someone else, but like what you were sharing of ourselves. We didn't value ourselves to take care of our own bodies, to take care of our own, souls. So,
Yeah.
it was a lot of work. Like what you said, when you kind of re-met me again, man, all that time period, you're going through roller coasters. I'm going in the same way, but in like a growth difficult part,
Yeah.
So
that's super awesome,
Yeah.
because it what's awesome, that obviously I play a lot of roles in this relationship right here.
got a hat
But
rack over
yeah,
there.
but the cool part
on and
was,
off.
I remember, and I know now we're going into this part, but I just feel like it's all important. I remember when we were working really hard at trying to raise your standards, and kind of like, no, Stephanie, no, the thing.
Yeah.
Then you had to make this decision. And it's funny how it turned around, because then he told you, hey, I got to work on myself. And I had to remind you, like, yo, you're getting so upset over something that actually helped you.
Mm-hmm.
You got to let him make this decision. You have to let him make this decision.
Yeah.
And I guess in your world, you're like, but I finally got him back, and now he's going to go. And it's like, no, like, he was just doing exactly what you did in raising his own raising that standard. So I thought it was kind of
carried
cool.
out a different way, but
Carried out.
carried out kind of jacked up, but you
couldn't
did it
raise the
anyway.
standard while I was raising, like, together, and then
One part I don't really want to go over, I guess, is when I moved back, right? When I moved with my dad.
Yeah.
After that, I went to Texas Bible Institute.
Yeah.
That's good.
After that, I got out, and then I fell.
Hold on. We'll be right back with this commercial break. We want to know what happens after you fall, and then we're gonna put a bow on it with some
right.
fun stuff. Wow. So there's a lot of tears happening. Man, this whole studio turned into, like, I'm telling you, if this was like a reality TV show, forget about it. Not a dry eye in the world. Everybody's, I just really appreciate, Jonathan, also, like, your vulnerability to share the story, and really be an open book, right? You were saying that you did all these great things, everything's going great, and then you fell.
Mm-hmm. So I remember broke my ankle. I broke my ankle.
Yeah.
And man, if you don't know, I guess I didn't share this. I was a baseball player growing up.
Yeah.
And it's really fast. I was able to run, and I just had them
You're
legs.
actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember when I broke my ankle, I felt like my world was like crushed in a way. Man, the one thing I'm really good at, was like taken from me. And in the same thought,
You would have been on the Yankees, we would have won, but go ahead.
well, in the same thought, I thought of this. I remember Pastor Ray told me a story one time about when a sheep goes astray, the shepherd breaks its leg and puts it on its back so the sheep can learn to trust the shepherd, that it will feed it, that it will make it drink, and it will take
That's
it
all
and,
I have to do?
Oh, man.
Oh, man, watch out. I'm showing up to church on Sunday.
In that same time, though, the hurt was too much. So all I did was go back to drugs.
Shout out to Pastor Ray and Rise, man,
Yeah.
because they do incredible
I
work.
went back to drugs, and then I was taking ecstasy like every single day, all day long. I was just on it, and then I remember it just being too much. I remember saying, because I had went to the Dream Center before
Yeah.
to get out of it, but the reason I went was to learn more. It was never to treat the disease that was going on in my heart. This second time I went to the Rise Discipleship Home, it was to actually overcome sin, the sin that was in my life. I was like entangled in this thing, and I realized then when I went into the second time that I was a product of my environment. Anywhere that I went to, I became like it, you know, anywhere. And so then I had to break that cycle, because if environment has the power to change me, then no matter what environment I go into, it has the power to change me. So I can't allow environment to change me. It had to be God. Like, it had to be a real, genuine relationship with God, and it couldn't have been me trying to please people.
It's an inner environment.
Yes.
It's an atmosphere of heaven inside.
Like, no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what, you know? And so I started working that in there, and that really changed who I was, because there was opportunities for me to do like break the rules and do things.
Nice.
And I worked on my integrity, and that was really cool.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it. I want to go. Let's do a segment.
Sure, let's kick it off.
Dear Younger Me.
We're going to start off with Dear Younger Me, right? So Back to the Future, stick you in the DeLorean, take us back to a younger you. What were you like? What were you doing? And what would you say to yourself if you could give yourself a piece of advice?
Because I'm going to probably put you in the DeLorean twice, so you might as well just...
I will probably, I would probably go to when I was turning 21. And because it was a time of restart. And I would probably say... What would I say?
What would you say to yourself?
Man, follow God. Follow God, no matter what. Follow God. There was a lot of pain before that, but there was just a lot of pain after that. And I feel like it could have just been prevented if I would have just followed God. Not just, it's easy to say, I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
That's the easy part, let me tell you.
Yeah, just saying it.
But being able to be like, follow God, hey, man, don't fall into sin, bro. Just obey. It's going to be hard regardless. That's what I've learned so far. Yeah. It's going to be hard regardless. It's going to be hard whether you choose sin, because eventually then you're going to have to or it's going to be hard because you're going to have to deny the flesh.
Yeah.
Bruh.
Something's going to die. Something's got to die.
Yes.
It's either going to kill you or you kill it.
Yeah. So what's round two?
Round two. Okay. So I'm putting you back in the DeLorean. And there's two. I'm going to save one of them is a Stephanie one. But I'll save that one for after this one. So you go back to a time where maybe you and I could have had a conversation. And you're talking to your dad based on what you know now in our relationship now. What would you say as a young 13, 14? Like, what would you say with what you know now to your dad?
Advice-wise?
Yeah.
Or are you asking how?
Yeah, how you...
Because there's probably, when you put me back and I think about what would I tell my dad.
With what you know now.
Where you at? The initial thought is, where you at, right? Where you at? Like, I haven't seen you.
Okay.
I haven't seen you. The initial thought,
I'm on
right?
drugs. What would you say to your
dad?
dad?
You know everything that you know that he's on drugs, what would you tell him?
Man, Dad, isn't it more important, family? Like, isn't family more important? Isn't do you want me to be like you? Do you want me on drugs? Do you want me to have a hard time? Do you want me to not be a father? Do you want me to follow in your footsteps? Like, am I supposed to follow your footsteps, because sometimes I think about, the radio show, right, and where it goes. And sometimes I think about the men in there, right? And sometimes I wonder if they think how their life impacts their kids. I know how my life was impacted by you not being there. So my life, when I tell you it was tough, man, it's been a tough. And, we had the conversations, and, I was like, man, and I used to blame you for the fact that I went through that stuff.
How the decision of me saying yes, how has that impacted you?
Well,
because it impacted you negatively. And maybe somebody's like, man, it's just too late.
Yeah.
How has the decision to say yes to Christ impacted your life today?
Well, I have a physical evidence of what to do and what, like, the differences between, man, what it was and what it is. Mm-hmm. You know, just the fact that we're able to have conversations, just the fact that I have somebody when it gets tough that I'm able to call on and be like, man, it's tough. I don't know what to do. Like, to me, this is the most important times of life. I get that, you know, as a child, it's super important. Yeah. But it's when you're a man and you don't know what to do and you literally have no one to call. It's almost like it's a good feeling being able to be like, hey, Dad, what are you, like, I don't know what to do in this point. I don't know, I'm stuck, you know? And, you know, being able to get advice, that to me, that there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that. There's nothing like being able to spend time with you, you know?
That's dope. So you heard it. It's never too late. I'm just saying, it's never too late. Like I know you got it from, but no, you heard it. I'm doing good now. Hey, no, you heard it. It's never too late. Like, you could still be in the life of your son or daughter. Yeah. I'm gonna put you back in the DeLorean. You're married now. You're married now, and so you have this relationship. I saw your pictures. I see the way y'all have a relationship. I see y'all continually growing, and it's just different compared to the relationships before. If you could go back, this Jonathan, to talk to that Jonathan, what would you say to that Jonathan according to the relationship that you have now and everything you know?
Right, man.
What would you say to that Jonathan? Because now you are married and you do have a life together. So what would you say to the Jonathan that wasn't seeing?
Was this after I told myself not to follow God? Was this after?
No. I'm saying cause right now, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, what would you say to yourself that would have avoided probably a lot of things, and probably y'all would have been married now 5 years or whatever? You get what I'm saying? Yeah? Yeah, that's a good, hey, that's good.
You know, from the aspect of being very immature.
What would you say to Jonathan? Speak to him.
Come on, bro. You're 20 years old. You know, you're 21. It's time to grow up. Life is not all about smoking weed. It's not all about sex. I mean, you say you believe in God. You know, there's a better future for you. You know that you're chosen. So I don't see why you're prolonging this. You know, you've seen what God has done for you. So I don't see why you still hold back from giving it all to Him. You know, sin is only going to lead you into some regrets that you're probably going to regret for the rest of your life. So you might as well just give in to the Lord.
What would you like to tell Stephanie today?
Thanks, my love. Thank you for just for everything. I feel like crying.
No, what's everything? It's okay.
Just thank you for holding your ground at those times when I didn't understand why you were doing it. Thank you for being a really good friend. Thank you for always being there. Even through the times that I didn't want to live anymore, through the times that I didn't have anything, you still saw me as everything that you saw me rich, even though I had nothing, you know. And I just want to thank you for always believing in me, always speaking into my life, positivity, always saying that I am enough, always saying that I am worth it, that I can do it. Thank you, my love.
Stephanie, you knew that Jonathan, and now you know this Jonathan. What would you say to this Jonathan?
To this Jonathan?
Yeah. What do you right? Because he's sharing his story, and you were part of the story then, and you're part of the story now. What would you say to this Jonathan sitting before you?
You know, I would definitely say that everything that you thought you weren't capable of doing, you were capable of doing it before, you know? And you're just as capable of overcoming those things, you know? Even though you had to go through all of that, it was in you back then, and it's never going to leave you, you know? that you're more than able, because he did call you and he did choose you, you know, and people need what you have. And so don't hold back from, you know, loving yourself, loving God, and loving people the way that all the people around you have loved you, you know, myself, you know, your dad, you know, people in, you know, family, church, all of that have loved you. Like, people need what you have.
Hey, I know we didn't get into it, but I kind of want to put you in the DeLorean one more time. We're never gonna get out of this one, but and so let me see how much time we got. Okay,
You got time.
just I know you've been through some stuff with your mom and all that stuff. What you know now, what would you say to your mom? That maybe you've never told her, because, you know, based on what you know now, maybe
I would
she's
probably
listening.
start with I'm sorry. You know, I'm so sorry. For man, I did a lot of bad stuff. You know, and first thing I would, you know, that I probably haven't told her is probably I'm sorry. You know, then after that I would probably say thank you for man, putting clothes on our backs. For, you know, I know how hard it is to work now. You know,
Yeah.
so now it's like, man, thank you so much, because like you worked your butt off to pay rent, to have a house, to have clothes, to everything, you know. And so you know, that's probably like my main two, you know, because, you know, I'm just grateful that she did, at least, you know, she did what she could.
Yeah.
And there are others, you know, other things going on in that, you know, that.
What would you say to somebody right now as we close out the show that is maybe on drugs but really can't see past his moment? What encouragement would you give him? And is it even worth, you know, obviously we can say it's worth it, but, you know, remember when we were getting high, we were like, we couldn't see, and maybe it's scary, and they don't trust, and they don't know, because they don't really know this life. What would you say to someone right now?
You got about a minute.
Man,
You can look into the camera if you want. Which one is he looking at?
That one.
That one over there. Look into the camera.
Man, let it go, bro. I know that it feels like it's the only thing you have, but let it go. It's only gonna take your life into a deeper and deeper and deeper hole. I had a lot of friends that used to, man, just one more time, and next thing you know, they overdose. You never know what's gonna be the amount. So all I'm saying is let it go, bro. Like, you have a whole future ahead of you. You have things that you don't even know you have inside of you. You have to be strong, because it's gonna be hard to let it go. I remember for myself, it was like the only thing I loved more than anything, because it's the only thing that made me feel good. It was the only thing that kept me alive. It was the only thing that kept it alive. And now I found something better. I found real ecstasy, like, you know. So that's probably would be what I would let you know, man. Let it go, because you're the only one holding on to it.
Nice.
Amen.
Let me give you a hug. I'm proud of you. Give me a hug. Give me a hug.
Give it up for Jonathan and Pastor Juan Martinez.
Juan Martinez from This Is Real.
And I'm Stephanie Rave, and we're so glad you joined us. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notification bell so you get notified every single time we have a new episode.
And don't forget, in Houston, Texas, on 100.7 FM, every single Saturday night, we're on the airwaves from 6:30 to 7:30, man, with real people, real problems, real solutions. The show is rocking.
Amen.
But not only that, not only is the show rocking, we're also reaching 53 cities, 51 state and county jails and prisons. And what we're doing is we're bringing the word to them. We're bringing them some laughter and some good times and some fire.
Amen.
And so for that, we need some partners. So if you want to partner with us, please click on the link below.
And don't forget to follow us on social media, #ThisIsReal, or on any other platforms, Pastor Juan Martinez.
Hey, that's a wrap. Peace.